Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I'm John Millay, Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer at Boucher Financial Group. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us. We appreciate that. You know, through these webinars, we'd like to cover a diverse range of topics that are meaningful to you and our entire client base. Those topics have ranged from updates on the investment markets, year-end tax planning tips, what to do with an old 401k at a previous employer, and a whole host of other financial topics. It's through conversations with you that we determine what topics are relevant and important to cover. So I highly suggest when you're speaking to members of our team, please share any thoughts you have on maybe some upcoming topics we could cover that might be important to you. Today's webinar, we will cover a very important topic to many of us: navigating the complex world of college financial aid and student loans. Maximizing the amount of financial aid that can be obtained to help fund education costs is an important goal, and the proper navigation of this complex process has the potential to reduce overall education costs in a meaningful way. For many of our clients, educational savings is a critical component of their financial plan. This could include savings for a child, a grandchild, or another family member. Recently, one of our associates, Vincenzo Testa, reviewed a number of college education saving vehicles on an episode of our radio show, Let's Talk Money, on 810 WGY. Be sure to listen to a recording of that show on our website for some great information on education savings. Today, we're going to focus on the financial aid and student loan components of covering education costs. We have the honor of being joined by an expert in these areas. Today's guest is Clem LaPietra. Clem is currently the Executive Director of Student Loans at Monroe College. He worked at New York State Higher Education for over 25 years and has been in the student loan industry for over 23 years. And most importantly, he's the father of our very own Paolo LaPietra. As most of you know, Paolo is a wealth advisor and portfolio strategist with the firm and will also be joining today's conversation. So thank you, Clem, for joining us, and Paolo for being a part of this.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
So at this point, we're gonna, so these are the main topics we're gonna cover: is financial aid, you know, really the whole process from applying to how it works, discussing the current environment climate for both financial aid and student loans, and then obviously touching on student loan forgiveness, which is a very hot topic. So at this point, I'm going to kick it over to Paolo to start off the conversation.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, so Dad, we talk about the student loan process, and obviously your senior year, this is such a big thing, and there's so many things that go into the thought process of applying to college, finding out what the right colleges are. But one of the most important things is filling out this FAFSA, right? And I was wondering if you could kind of just spend some time talking about that process and the FAFSA in general.
Correct. One of the most important thing for federal financial aid and for institutional aid through the college is to complete the free application for federal student aid, which is commonly referred to as the FAFSA. The FAFSA, the earliest that the FAFSA can be completed would be October 1st, prior to the future award year. So for an example, a child who's going to enter college in September of 2023, the earliest you can complete the FAFSA would be October 1 of 2022. The important thing about the FAFSA is they need the tax information for the previous tax year. So for an example, when you're completing the FAFSA in October of 2022, you would be using the 2021 taxes. Now, a lot of families have said to me in the past, well, there's no reason for me to complete the FAFSA. I work, my spouse works, we make too much money, we're not going to receive any aid. Well, that's actually not true, because most colleges and universities use the FAFSA to award institutional aid. And that's very important, because that's where the majority of the aid comes from, is from the institution, and they need the FAFSA. So not only the FAFSA, but in some cases, some of our major colleges and universities with large endowments need the college scholarship profile, which is the CSS profile. That also needs to be completed starting October 1 of the year prior of the academic year that the child is ready to go to college.
And this is a completely separate form from the
Yeah.
FAFSA?
The CSS profile is separate from the FAFSA, okay? And only some colleges or universities require the CSS profile.
Right. So why don't we start right from the beginning? I'm in my senior year. I'm looking to complete the FAFSA. Where am I going to complete that form? Is that
Okay.
online?
Okay, so what you would do then, starting October 1, you're a senior in high school, October 1, you would go to studentaid.gov. And there you would complete the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. Now, that requires all your information. Also, you would put down all the colleges that you intend to apply to. And then going further down the road, obviously, they would want the tax information in this case, would be from 2021 for not only the student, but obviously for the parents also. Now, in some cases, obviously, if their parents are separated or divorced, you do not need the information from both parents. What the federal government has allowed you to do is only utilize the custodial parent. What does the custodial parent mean? That means where the student would spend at least 51% of their time before, in the calendar year. Now, people ask, do I have to be the custodial parent, do I have to claim my child on the previous year if you're separated or divorced? You do not, okay? Doesn't matter who claims the child. The custodial parent is where the student spends at least 51% of their time with one parent there.
So there could be a strategic element to this, right? You would want the parent that is bringing in the least amount, right, to be the one that is on the FAFSA
strategically, you would look at that, but obviously, the rule requires that the student spends at least 51% of the time with that parent.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. And so that covers the federal application. And to be eligible for federal student loans, you need to complete the FAFSA, the free application, or you're not eligible for federal student loans. Also, for New York State students or residents that are going to attend a college or university in New York State, you should complete the HESC TAP application. This will award aid to students from New York State that attend colleges in New York State. Again, obviously, a lot of it is based on the income, but it opens the door to other New York State scholarships that are eligible, and they would be eligible on the HESC.com webpage, where you would see all the scholarships that you're eligible for.
So Clem, just a question here. So this is striking close to home for me. So I actually have a daughter who is finishing up her junior year of high school. So we're going to be starting down this process, and we've just started the process of looking at colleges. And as we're visiting colleges, one of the things we do is we go to their websites or talk to their admission folks, and we get the sticker shock of here's what the cost of tuition, room and board is. But they also all give you stats on kind of their average financial aid that they give out. And so a question here is the FAFSA, is that really the linchpin of all of that for us to really get serious with a college, this is kind of the starting point for them to really give us real numbers as to what kind of package they might offer us?
Correct. The way the process works is like your daughter would be applying for colleges coming this fall. The college then would like the FAFSA done, completed, because when they accept the child, they were going to send an award letter The award letter will include any federal aid that she's eligible for, any state aid that she's eligible for, and most importantly, any institutional aid. They will not send that award letter unless they see the Fafsa. So that's why it's very important. What, a lot of people don't understand is the institutional aid is very important because it includes money from the college. And when they're looking at the overall picture, the most important thing that they're looking at is the actual student. Is this student a quality student from the high school that we're accepting? Is the student a very active in her high school, in her community, or his high school, his community? Well, when they feel, hey, this student is quality, this student's going to stay here for 4 years, he's going to graduate, which improves our graduation rates. Okay, they're more adept to give that student an award or a greater award than they would give another student. So, but they need that FAFSA, and in the other cases, the CSS profile to award that.
So it sounds like the FAFSA opens up doors to many different avenues for aid, whether it's through the college, whether it's federal aid. So extremely important nonetheless for a student that is going to be attending college to be filling out that form.
Correct. It's very important.
Let's talk about, I see this last bullet point, Parent Plus loans. Let's talk about a student that, gets accepted to a college that the federal aid isn't going to be enough for them to pay the full tuition, and the parents are going to need to take out some money as well. Can you talk about that process?
Correct. So when they fill out the application, the federal application, they're eligible for a federal direct student loan. That federal direct student loan for a freshman entering college, the max they could receive is $5,500 for their freshman year. And it increases $1,000 for their sophomore year, and then $2,000 for the junior and senior year. Well, now there's still a gap. Okay, the family still has a balance due to the college. Well, there's options. There's the Parent Plus loan. That's a federal Parent Plus loan. That's backed by the federal government. It's kind of an expensive loan. The interest rates right now for this upcoming academic year are 6.7%, but also there's a 4% origination fee on a federal Parent Plus loan. Okay, so it's an expensive loan compared to the private student loan. Private student loan will come from lenders. Some schools will give you information regarding the lenders, but you can find them on Google. There's quite a few lenders. There's also a clearinghouse. I don't want to advertise companies, but there's a clearinghouse that you can go to get the private student loan. Now, the private student loan would be, you could have it in the student's name, but in most cases, because it's a fairly young student entering college, they would like a cosigner. And the interest rate on that private student loan would obviously be based on the credit of the cosigner, how strong the cosigner is. With the private student loan, also, there is no origination fee, okay? The difference is with a federal Parent Plus loan, you have many benefits that the student has in their student loan process, meaning more deferments, forbearances, which we're going to get into later. The parent is also eligible for public service loan forgiveness, where they're not eligible in the private student loan. So there is the pros and cons on that. You'd have to research them both, but interest rates are more beneficial with the private student loan.
So it sounds like if a family was in that situation, it would behoove them to both look at Parent Plus loans and also private loans and really weigh out. And it seems like the interest rates are really going to dictate that. If you have enough of a discount on the private side, that it might make the most sense.
Makes sense.
But you're losing out on a lot of the federal benefits, like you just mentioned, forbearance or student loan forgiveness.
Correct.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. I think,
and obviously as parents, I think we work with clients, on one leg of the stool, right? With setting up savings, right, for college. and then you want to get the max you can out of financial aid, and then you're right, if there's a gap there, you have to address it with loans. Before we get more into loans and forbearance, just one of the things you hear anecdotally is colleges are competitive, right? They want quality students. They want students who are going to be there for 4 years and succeed. When a student receives an award, what opportunities, what options does a parent have or a family have at that point? I mean, I've heard anecdotal stories of individuals going back to their college and actually negotiating, and saying, hey, I got an offer from another school and I'd prefer to go to yours, and just give it a little sense of the landscape at college and how families can kind of best advocate for themselves.
That's correct. Right. So when they would, like I say, now the students should apply to obviously all the schools that they would like to go to. But in New York State, I always suggest that a student applies to a New York State college, SUNY college, where if they get accepted, obviously, as a state resident, the room, board expenses are approximately $26,000 to $27,000 a year. Okay, but there could be other private colleges that would award a student a really, really beneficial award. But the student would like to go to XYZ college in Boston, Massachusetts, for an example. But that college did not offer the award package that 2 or 3 of the other schools. What you could do then, you could appeal based on your family circumstances, one of the big things is based on how many children that you have in college or expected to go to college at some point in time, and appeal and use, for an example, use the previous or the other award that was very beneficial at another school or state award going to a SUNY school compared to what the XYZ school in Boston is offering. And in cases that if that college really wants that student is a quality student, that they know that student is going to stay there for 4 years and is going to graduate. I want to just get back quickly to the Fafsa. When you complete the Fafsa, free application for federal student aid, you're done. At the back page, it shows you all the colleges that you applied to. It gives you the graduation rates, the retention rates, and the withdrawal rates. And that's very important because those rates are compiled by the Department of Education. So if you're a family and you've just applied, your child has just applied to 7 or 8 colleges, and you finalized the free application, and you're looking at these 7 colleges, and some of them have a graduation rate of maybe 60%, 62%, but 2 of them have a graduation rate of over 90%. Well, obviously, as a family, you're going to say, hey, to your child, look at this school with a 92% graduation rate. Well, that's why when you're doing the appeal process and these schools are looking at that quality student, that student meets all the metrics that they feel that student will stay for 4 years and will graduate. What's that student doing? That student is improving the graduation rates, and that's where more awards would come in. All that factors into it.
What's interesting as a parent, you don't go through this process a lot, right? And you don't have a lot of kids, but there's a lot of money at stake, right? So you definitely you want to get the best deal. And so a lot of parents, we stumble into it and not knowing that we can quote negotiate, but we are consumers, and we're going to be spending valuable dollars, whether that's loan proceeds or our savings or other grants at that college. So it is eye-opening to know that a lot of times you think, well, we just accept what the school gives you. You really are kind of passive in it, but I think what I'm hearing is be active with it, and the best consumers are going to be the most engaged and most knowledgeable, and it rings true here for education as well.
Correct.
Perfect.
Good. Want to go?
Yep. Sam, whenever you're ready, we're ready for the next slide. Perfect. So this is definitely something that's been on everybody's mind. As it states right here, last 26 months, federal student loans have been in forbearance. Can you really talk about, the differences between the federal family educational loan program and the federal direct loan program and why that's so important?
Right. In 2010, under the Affordable Care Act, with that act, it has eliminated the federal family educational loan program. That was a federal government guaranteed loan. Those loans were dispersed by lenders in this country. So more of our students that were in college in the 90s or the early 2000s had the federal family educational loan. Well, in 2010, they eliminated that and they went 100% with the federal direct loan. The federal direct loan is a loan from the Treasury to the college on behalf of the student. Okay, so now we're into the direct loan program. So what happened is students that stayed in the federal family educational loan program and continue to make payments in that program, when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, the Department of Education suspended all interest on the direct student loans for no payments on the direct student loans, and that has continued for the last 26 months. Now, if you did not consolidate into the or into the direct student loan program, you were still required to make payments and the interest kept accruing. So the Department of Ed gave you the opportunity to consolidate that federal loan program and including in some cases the Perkins loan program. That was another federal loan that was direct to the school. The school dispersed that loan. You had to consolidate the direct loan program. Okay. Now, what's so important about that also, outside of the interest subsidy and no payment, is what's called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program came into effect in 2010 also, that if you made 120 payments for anywhere from 2007 to 2000 and within 10 years to current date, whatever, as long as you make 10 years of payment and you worked for a 501c non-for-profit or a federal, state, city government, you were eligible for public service loan forgiveness. If you did not consolidate those federal family educational loans into the direct loan program, you cannot apply for the loan forgiveness, even though you've been working for 10, we're talking about like school teachers, nurses, police officers. You're not eligible. So what the government did a year ago was they went back and they expanded it where they allowed students that were in that federal family educational program to consolidate into the direct loan program. And once you did that, the government went back to 2007. And if you made 120 payments in that period of time, your balance is forgiven. Whatever current balance you have is forgiven tax-free. And in some cases, if you overpaid, if you made more than 120 payments, the government has refunded those payments above and beyond 120 payments.
And this is a big deal, right? Because we go back to 2017 when this was first eligible, right? The first group of people that were looking for public forgiveness for student loans. Wasn't the statistic something crazy like 90% were originally rejected, not because they didn't, work for a non-for-profit or work for a government entity, but because they didn't consolidate from that original family federal student loan to the direct federal student loans. Is that correct?
So, for example, what I said, the first payments that were eligible were anything made or work from 2007 going forward. Well, in 2017, those 10 years were up, which is 120 payments. So there were tens of thousands of student loan borrowers that applied for the loan forgiveness. They were 99% were rejected. Why? They were rejected. First of all, they did not consolidate from the Federal Family Education Loan Program into the direct program. And in some cases, they were in the wrong repayment plan, because to be eligible, you had to be in the income-driven payment plan or the standard payment plan. So they were rejected. And this is what brought about in 2020 was the Department of Ed said, well, we're going to go back and correct all this. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to allow these students or these borrowers that were in the federal family educational program or were in the wrong repayment program, allow them to consolidate and to file a new claim so we can go back and research and have these loans forgiven. And it's been very successful. There's a lot of news out there on how successful it is. One of the other forgiveness programs that is coming up, obviously it's in the news, is that, you know, Congress and the administration are working on a blanket forgiveness. The administration is talking about $10,000 forgiveness blanket, no matter where you work, what you're doing. There are members of Congress and in the Senate that would like to see $50,000 forgiven. A lot of this is going to be depending on your income. What the Department of Ed is stating is that they feel in the month of August that there will be a resolution on how much will be forgiven and how that forgiven will take place. Now, we're not talking about this. We're not talking about public service. We're just talking blanket forgiveness, which, you know, again, this 26-month of forbearance, which is currently on, where there's no interest on any loans in repayment, no payments available, or I'm sorry, or no payments are
required.
Yeah, you don't have to make any payments. And if you're in school, currently in school, or you have a Parent Plus loan, currently, there's no interest accruing on those loans. Now, this is supposed to go back into repayment and interest starting to accrue beginning September 1 of 2022. Again, having conferences with the Department of Ed, they feel that there will be another extension of the forbearance and the interest subsidy going on for at least 6 more months or to a year. So there's a lot out there, but the reminder is to be eligible for all these forgiveness and subsidies, if you still have a federal family educational loan, you have to consolidate into the direct loan program, which is very important.
Great. Well, we're coming to an end here with just about a little over a minute left. And you know, Clem, appreciate all the information here. You know, it's such a wealth of knowledge, and I think we could probably go on for an hour plus with this topic. And, you know, I guess the takeaways that today are, you know, it's complex, but there's a lot of money at stake for individuals. You know, paying for education is a really important part of our financial planning. And, you know, there's help, right? And I think one of the things we're hearing on the forbearance side is make sure you've consolidated, right? You've consolidated, you're in the right type of loan. So definitely reach out for assistance there. And, you know, I would just say with the whole FAFSA financial aid process, if any clients need help, right, I think, you know, reach out to your advisor at our firm, and we can certainly, you know, open up some avenues and help point you in the right direction. Clem, really want to thank you for your time today. We know you're a very busy individual, a lot of balls you're juggling. Really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your knowledge with our client base. And, you know, just appreciate all your assistance. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody, thank you for joining. And, you know, tune in for our future webinars. And this recording will also be on our website, www.boucher.com. So again, thank you for joining and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.